While Russia continues to invade Ukraine, a new war is brewing between US President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. The verbal spat began after Trump's long phone call with Putin and his decision to exclude Zelensky from peace talks with Russia. This sparked tension. Trump is not only dancing to Putin's tunes but also called out Dictator Zelensky for starting the Ukraine war. But are these accusations true or just verbal attacks?
But think of it, a modestly successful comedian. President Zelensky talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won, that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance, and it didn't start for 4 years. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died.
While Trump subtly implied that Ukraine was behind the gruesome war that has dragged on for almost 3 years, the fact is that Russia started the war by invading Ukraine in 2022. Russian troops launched the largest military operation since World War II, with missiles raining down as tanks rolled into Ukrainian territory. By falsely accusing Ukraine of starting the war, the US president distorted history.
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating.
The US president took a jab at Zelensky, claiming that the Ukrainian president's approval rating was as low as 4%. However, the truth is that, according to the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, Zelensky's approval rating rose to 57% in early February. After a steady decline in popularity in 2024, Zelensky regained the support of over half of Ukraine in 2025. But that's not all. Trump even called Zelensky a dictator without elections.
A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left.
Since the war broke out in Ukraine, martial law has been imposed by the president to defend the country. Under Ukraine's constitution, national elections cannot be held during martial law. As a result, the 2024 presidential elections were suspended. The last elections in Ukraine took place in 2019 when Zelensky came to power. However, the president has stated that elections will be held once martial law is lifted.
And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, yes, sir, to say that he's pretty easy.
After Zelensky accused Trump of falling for Russia's disinformation, an angry Trump fired back. On Truth Social, he claimed that the Ukrainian president had talked the United States into spending $350 billion. However, there's no evidence that the US has committed to spending or spent $350 billion on Ukraine. In September 2022, the World Bank estimated it could cost $350 billion to rebuild Ukraine, but this figure wasn't tied to US funding. Congress approved $108 billion for Ukraine, with $130.1 billion obligated and $86.7 billion dispersed. This isn't the first time Trump mentioned the $350 billion figure. He also brought it up in a December 2024 interview on Meet the Press. Trump not only angered European nations by holding peace talks solely with Russia, but also accused them of spending less than the US to help Ukraine. He claimed that the US spent $200 billion more than Europe. However, according to data from Kiel Institute, the European Union and individual countries committed $258 billion, while the US contributed $124 billion. In fact, Europe individually allocated more military, financial, and humanitarian aid than the US. Trump also took the liberty of commenting on Zelensky's situation with the allegedly missing US dollars. Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing, Trump wrote on social media. However, Zelensky never made such an admission. Instead, he pointed out that the US often makes big claims but fails to follow through. In an interview, Zelensky clarified that while people talk about Ukraine receiving up to $200 billion in US aid, Ukraine actually received about $76 billion, mostly in the form of weapons. He also noted that a significant portion of the US budget for the Ukraine war is not in the form of direct financial aid to the Ukrainian government. With all the facts laid out, who can be trusted in the feud between Trump and Zelensky?